Hey everyone, welcome back for another video. If you're new here, my name is Tonya, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about all the different books that I read in the month of March. I'm getting this out a little bit late, but at this point, we're still in April, so I'm going to say it's not too late, but yeah, I definitely do want to try to start getting these wrap-ups out a little bit earlier, just because for one thing, it's easier for me to remember the details of the book if I do it sooner, and also just to get, these wrap-ups out for you guys sooner. So that's what we're going to be doing in today's video. So go ahead, grab yourself a cozy drink, sit back, relax, and let's talk about the 6 different books that I read in the month of March. So March was a pretty busy month for me work-wise, so I didn't get as much reading as I would like in, but I still got a decent amount in. Like I said, I did read 6 books in the month of March, plus one little, I guess we're going to call it honorable mention because it wasn't really a book, it was some bonus chapters. But total for March, I read 2,507 pages. I listened to 21 hours and 42 minutes of audiobooks, and I had 2 5-stars, 2 4.5 stars, 1 4-star, and a 3.75. So overall, really good reading month. Everything I picked up was worth the read. I enjoyed it. I would recommend it, which I'm going to do as we get into the books. But yeah, first, let's get started with the audiobooks. So I completed one audiobook, and I also did the bonus chapters for Quicksilver. And I'm not going to rate the Quicksilver bonus chapters just because it was so short. It was a little over 2 hours. But if you do love the Alchemy and Fae series, I would recommend these bonus chapters. You can find them on sale on Audible somewhat frequently. I think I ended up paying like $2 or $3 for it, and they were definitely worth the listen. I love Kingfisher. I love the world. I love, all the side characters and everything about that series. So this one was great for me. I enjoyed my extra time with the characters and was happy that I got to listen to it. If you are a fan, definitely check out the bonus chapters. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Then next up, I listened to The Ashes of the Star-Cursed King by Carissa Broadbent. I gave this one 4.5 stars. It's the second book in the Crowns of Nyaxia series, and I really enjoyed this. I think Araya and Rain have such good chemistry, and just Carissa Broadbent's writing of this world, the world is pretty expansive. She goes into a lot of details with her descriptions, and you really get a feel of the history for the land in the Crowns of Nyaxia series. And this series is broken up into, there's some standalones as well as there's duologies. So the first 2 books are following Araya and Rain, and then, there's some novellas and standalones in there, and then we follow 2 other characters in books 3 and 4, and then 2 other characters in books 5 and 6. So I just started this series, have absolutely loved it. So in both the first book and I would say even the second book, we're doing enemies to reluctant allies. And, in the first book, we had the trials and, all the things that went along with that. In the second, we're basically picking up where that book left off. We're learning more about the different secrets that Vincent kept from Araya. We're learning more about Rain's past and just the world in general. And I think this book did an amazing job of talking about how raw pain and grief can feel and how it can consume us and sneak up on us. And, we think we're doing well, and then all of a sudden it rears its ugly head again, and you have to go through and deal with these painful emotions and the feelings of, the grief swallowing you whole again. And she did a great job, I think, of writing that in this book, and in a way that you could really feel our characters going through these very painful but natural feelings. I also think there was a great message about fearing love and, not opening yourself up to others can stifle you, and how you're going to be stronger if you work together and you'll allow either, a lover in or friends in to help you get through just all the different things that life's throws at you. I mean, it's that way in, our real everyday lives too. We all need someone that we can lean on, that can help us out. And I think that Carissa Broadbent wrote those feelings and those ideas really well into this book. So definitely enjoyed it. Also, if you like vampire books, it's a must read. So would recommend, and I plan on continuing with the series. I have already started Slaying the Vampire Conqueror. Loving it. So if you are a romantasy fan, you love vampires, and you love books where the characters feel real feelings and those are portrayed to you in a real way, then definitely pick up this series. And now we're going to move into the physical and ebooks that I read. The first one was Leviathan by Philip Quintrell, and this one was a novella, and I loved every minute of it. It was a 5-star read for me, which for a novella, that is pretty high, but this was basically just a quick, grand adventure with all of my favorite characters from the Echo saga, and it just made me happy the whole time I was reading it. Now, I can't even say that maybe was the story the most original or, the most well written. Probably not, but I love these characters so much, and I love the way that Philip Quintrell portrays their relationships that it just was a joy. It was an easy 5-star read for me. Now, you won't want to read this without reading the Echo saga first, but if you have read that series, this novella is definitely worth the read. Then I read The Last Contract of Asako by Fonda Lee, and I got that as an ARC. The book actually comes out on May 5th, and if you are a dystopian fan or you like samurais or kind of character-driven stories, then this is going to be a good book for you. I really enjoyed my time reading it. I gave this 4 stars, and this was my first book by Fonda Lee. I did really enjoy her writing. It was very descriptive without being overly flowery, because for the type of world we were in, I don't think that a flowery kind of, lyrical description of the world would have matched up with the story very well. And what I also liked about this book is we did have an older female main character. Asako, who is our corporate samurai in the book, is 50 years old and still very active and able to take care of herself, defend others. And, that's not what you get in a lot of fantasy books. By the time someone gets to 50, at least the women get to 50, if you even see a character that old, they're kind of old and wrinkled and matronly, and that is not Asako. So I did really appreciate having that strong, older female character in this book. I also really appreciated the character growth that happened for Asako. That's another thing you don't always get with older characters, is that growth, because a lot of the time, it's kind of portrayed they're already, set in their ways, where they've already learned all their lessons. And as you know, we learn as we continue to age, and our viewpoints change and our thoughts change, and what we like and what we dislike, all of that kind of morphs as we grow older. And it was really nice to see that portrayed in a book. Another thing I did also really like about this book was the feel of the dystopian world. Now, I will say we didn't necessarily get a lot of background on why our society is now living where they're living, and how kind of things unfolded to get them where they are today. But what we did learn about the world was really original. Essentially, Earth sent out some ships to kind of try to find other places that we could inhabit, and one of those ships ended up on this planet. The atmosphere is not hospitable. You have to be in this kind of domed, controlled environment in order to survive. If you go outside of the dome, then the elements will eventually kill you. But inside the dome, there's a very unique structure of living. A lot of people do community type living, so you're kind of living in these, I'd almost call them pods, where there's like a group mother or group father, and then, other families that are living there, but the group mother or father may be the ones really taking care of the children, while, their actual parents are out doing different jobs or different things like that. So there's a real community feeling to how people are living. And now it is still kind of it is still kind of class structured, but overall just thought it was really unique. And then as far as the book itself, there was some great plot twist in it. Some of them you will see coming, others you won't. One thing I didn't necessarily enjoy about it is we're following Asako for the first 50% of the book. Then we switch to another POV and we don't really get back to Asako again for another, I'd say, maybe 25% of the book. So we have a long time away from her, and I would have liked them to have sprinkled this other POV in because it's a POV from the past. I would have liked them to have sprinkled those in throughout Asako's section of the book, because I think it just would have been nice to not have such a long break from her. Now, everything comes together in that last 25%, but we did just have a really long time where we weren't with our main character. And for me, that was a little bit odd. But overall, definitely would recommend. Like I said, this comes out on May 5th. If you're a dystopian fan, if you like kind of corporate samurai or space opera type books, then you're going to like this one. And as I also said, Fondalee's writing is really easy to digest and easy to read. So definitely one to keep on your radar. The next up, we're going to talk about The Book of Fallen Leaves by A.S. Tamaki. And this one was a 3.75 for me. Overall, really good book. There was some things in the way that the book was structured, as well as in the pacing of the book, that kind of dropped it down to the 3.75 for me. But this is also the first book in a fantasy series, so there was a whole lot of world building that did need to take place, and that was pretty detailed. So, you know, it may be something where that pace picks up in other books, but this first one was a little bit slow at times for me. And this book does have lots of things that I do enjoy. It was an exiled prince who, you know, was trying to take back his family's lands. We had political intrigue, scheming, backstabbing, you know, all the things from the different members of the court and the different families that exist in this particular realm. So if you do like a more political book, then this could be a good one for you also. And our two main characters in this book are Sin and Rui. And Sin is our exiled prince. He's been living with a foster family since the majority of the rest of his family was killed. And Rui is a peasant girl who her family worked for Sin's family, and they were found together after Sin's family was massacred. And Sin was taken off to live with this foster family, and Rui was taken to live in the village that was near the foster family that Sin was going to be living with. And they don't see each other for years and years, and then they do slowly start to see each other just at different events throughout the village, and become friends as time goes on. And they are our main two characters, but I feel like we didn't spend a ton of time with them. We started getting additional POVs probably 30% of the way through the book, and we just kept getting more and more POVs, and I almost feel like we got too many POVs, and we could have spent more time with Sin and Rui and really getting connected to them and learning their story and learning their struggles, rather than spending some of the time in this book with those other points of view. They were interesting, but I think the value that they added could have been brought in a different way, where we could have spent more time with our two main characters. So that was kind of my feeling overall. I did really enjoy it, but like I said, it was a little slow, and, you know, we just didn't get a lot of time with our two main characters. Now, I do think I will continue the series, so we'll kind of see what the pacing is like in the next book, and then I can kind of make a decision at that point if the series is going to be something I want to continue overall. Then next up, I read The Foxglove King by Hannah Witten, and this one's a romantasy, and this one was a 4.5 star read for me. I wasn't really expecting that going into the book. I've actually had this one for quite some time, and I put off reading it because it was never something I was drawn to, and that was a mistake on my part. I really did enjoy this book. I thought the author did a great job of building a very unique world, very unique magic system, and just drawing us in immediately with our female main character whose name is Lore. And she is something called a death witch. And she has death magic, which in this world is called mortem. And there is also supposed to be life magic in this world, but it hasn't been seen for quite some time. But, you know, just really unique. Those kind of two sides of the coin with the life and the death magic. And there is a love triangle in this book. We have Bastion, who is, you know, the misunderstood prince. And we have Gabriel, who is something called a Mort, which is an agent of the church who has death magic. But they only use this death magic for, you know, benefiting the church or, you know, whatever the church directs for. And they take a vow of celibacy also, which, you know, I guess you can kind of see where that's going if there's a love triangle. Now, I will say this is slow burn. There is a love triangle, but there isn't any sort of real spice that takes place in this book. Very, very mild. So if you're not a fan of spice, then this would definitely be a good book for you. Now, I can't say what happens on the spice level as the series goes on, but for this one, very minimal, not much beyond kissing. And I think because of that, we were able to delve into the two different relationships a lot more than maybe if this book did have spice in it. So at this point, I have no idea who Lore is going to end up with. Is it going to be Bastion, who I am Team Bastion, I will say, or is it going to be Gabriel? Still a good guy, but he has a lot of demons of his own as well. But yeah, so definitely enjoyed this series. And if you're looking for your next romantasy read, would definitely suggest picking it up. And then the last book I picked up this month was The Strength of the Few by James Islington, which is the second book in the Hierarchy series. This is the sequel to Will of the Many. And this was a 5-star read for me from beginning to end. Absolutely love this book. Cried multiple times, cheered multiple times. It just has all the right components to make it a great epic fantasy book. I'm sad that I have to wait for the next book in the series to come out because, you know, this is an ever evolving plot. We get a few more details, you know, with each book, but it's a pretty expansive plot and the world itself is pretty expansive. So there's a lot going on. But I will say, even though there's a lot going on, our viewpoints in at least these first two books have been pretty limited to Vis, who is our male main character. And that just makes it easier to keep track of, I think, when you have such an expansive world and such an expansive plot, that we're not following a whole, even though there are a lot of characters, we're not following a whole bunch of different point of views. Now, this one does have multiple, I guess you would say, point of views, but they're more point of views from places or locations. They're not point of views from different characters. All of the points of view are still this. They're just in different locations, which I thought that was really interesting. Lots of crazy, horrible things go down at the end of this book, and I was traumatized. But then James Islington throws us a little bone, and if what we got teased with at the end actually is what I think it is, the third book is going to be absolutely amazing. So if you do like a complex world with a complex magic system, because this one is complex, it's based on, it's something called will, and it's basically structured kind of like a pyramid scheme. So you're flowing your will up to the top. When you give your will to others, it weakens you. So definitely one of the more unique magic systems I've read. But what I will say James Islington does so well, besides this world building and the plot, is you really get down in the nitty gritty with our main character. We get to spend so much time with him and so much time in his head that, you know, you just got to know what happens next. So definitely would recommend the Hierarchy series. I love this book. I devoured it, and I will be impatiently waiting for the next book to come out. So that is all of the books that I read in the month of March. What was your favorite read in the month of March? Leave me a comment down below on what your favorite read was, or if you've read any of these books that I mentioned, or if you're looking forward to reading one of them. Just let me know your thoughts down below. Take care, keep reading, and I'll catch you in my next video. Bye.